This is super interesting that Uber now has new cosmetic guidelines for your vehicle. Now before, under the minimum requirements for a vehicle to drive for Uber, it would just say good condition with no cosmetic damage, which as you can imagine sometimes could be a bit vague. And they now just put in this new updated list for the cosmetic guidelines. Some cosmetic features may prevent vehicles from qualifying. These include full body wraps containing advertisements or any large ads, which is super interesting. I will talk about that in a second. Holes in the exterior, taxi decals or taxi style paint, significant damage to interior in terms of torn seats, large permanent stains, etc., different colored hoods and doors, aftermarket modifications, and lastly, for here in California, window tinting must be within acceptable California regulations. This is very interesting to me for a few different reasons. One, I will say I'm kind of glad they now have a more specific, strict guideline set, so to speak, because before it was kind of vague. You're like, okay, good condition with no cosmetic damage, but what do you mean by no cosmetic damage? It is sort of vague, so now they're being more specific. They do mention on that list full body wraps and any large ads. What I am wondering, I'm assuming this falls under that category, is I've seen a lot of Uber and Lyft drivers and rideshare drivers in general have almost like a top style billboard. You know, if you think of like a Domino's car or like a pizza delivery car, when they have like the pizza delivery ad on top of it. I've seen a lot of ride-sharing cars have those now, and they make extra money while having them. I feel like that probably falls under that list, but again, I'm not entirely sure, but my guess is if they're not only mentioning full body wraps, but just large ads, that means if you do have ads and you're driving for Uber, that may be something you might have to worry about. The rest of those guidelines make a lot of logical sense to me. It is interesting they are mentioning odors. I gotta say, and I feel like this is true for most people, I would much rather be in an Uber or a Lyft that was a little bit dirty than smelled really, really bad. And as we all know, when it comes to our senses, we can quickly, and in some cases, fortunately or unfortunately, get used to a bad smell. And I just gotta be honest, there's been some times where an Uber driver went to pick me up, or a Lyft driver, the car looked amazing from the outside. And remember, if you're looking to get a higher tip, get a higher rating, etc., the first kind of perception someone has of you is the outside of your vehicle. Even if your vehicle is perfect on the inside, if you pull up and like say there's a lot of dirt, a lot of grime on the outside, it just doesn't look the best. That's the worst first impression. But even still, there's been some times a car pulled up, looked spotless from the outside, I opened up the door and I get a whiff of something, right? Some vague smell, whether it's like a food smell, some type of body odor smell, or just some other smell. And even though, yeah, the car looks spotless on the inside as well, the bad odor I think just makes it a lot worse. Now, being honest, do I think you're gonna fail your inspection if you have like a bad odor in your car? I doubt it, unless it's like very aggressive, for lack of a better word. But that is something, I gotta say as a side note, you do have to keep track of. Overall though, I gotta say, I do like these guidelines, and I do like now that as opposed to before, when they were being super vague, saying good condition with no cosmetic damage, now they're being a lot more specific.